Hey, what's up you guys? So today I wanted to create the perfect book with you guys. So this is a challenge created by Daniel Greene, and I saw this challenge done over on Murphy Napier's channel. So if you want to check either of those out, I'm going to link them both down below. So for this challenge, you have a set of story aspects such as tone, plot, characters, and you pick an author who you think would write good tone, plot, characters for your perfect story. And you want to create a cohesive book, or as cohesive of a book as you can make. So I'm going to start off with the first aspect, which is tone. So I tend to always like those more grimmer tones, darker tone books where it's very serious and everything is taken very seriously. So I think I'm going to go with Marcus Zuzak for writing the tone, because in the book Thief, which is the only book that I've read by him, the tone is just very serious. It's very in your face and it's very honest, and the narrator does not try to shy away from anything that's going on, and it's just upfront with what's going on, and it's just very grim and dark, but also very real. So the next aspect is the characters. So for this, I'm going to go with Taylor Jenkins Reid, who wrote The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So this book, it was just so fantastically done character-wise. Evelyn is the realest character I've ever read about. Like, I genuinely thought while I was reading this that this could have been a legit person. Like, she felt so real. And I was so shocked that this was a work of fiction, honestly, because Evelyn, she just goes through so much, but it's so much stuff that's kind of real. Like, people have gone through abusive relationships, and especially people in the LGBTQ plus community have gone through many abusive relationships, and that's what she went through. And, you know, she went through being LGBTQ plus in a time where it wasn't openly accepted and where those rights had to be fought for. And so she just felt very real. She went through so many things that so many people have had to go through, and I just thought that this was such a fantastically done book, and the characters were really what shone through in this book for me. So the next prompt is magic system. So for the magic system, I would go with Lord of the Rings. So in Lord of the Rings, the magic system is so entwined with the history of this world, and it's so just built into everything that's going on. And it isn't super strong presence-wise either. The hobbits are just being hobbits. They don't do anything with magic. The elves are just being elves. They don't do anything with magic really. But they do have rulers who have this magical assistance. And so we've got Mordor and the Ring of Power, and so that's really where the magic comes in. And then I just thought that the magic system in this book was so good, and I loved the world overall, and so I would love to use the magic system from Lord of the Rings. So the next prompt is villains, and for this I would pick Cassie Clare. I think that she writes some awesome villains. Her villains always have so many different twists to them, and they're always so much deeper than just being the bad guy. They're always bad with a reason. You know, Valentine, he's a pretty bad guy, but he's got his reasons, and you can almost kind of see from his perspective why he feels the way that he feels. You know, it's not just to be an asshole, it's because he is set in his ways and set in his convictions. And the thing is a lot of people are like that. They are set in their ways and they're set in their convictions, and he is one of the people who's just like that, and he used that to try to further his platform and further his position. And so he was just a pretty good villain in my opinion, and she continues on with that in the rest of her series, with Sebastian, in my opinion, probably being the weakest one, just because he is bad because he's a demon, and that's kind of the extent of that. So the next prompt is hero, and for this I would pick Kiera Cass, who wrote the selection, and I'm just kidding, because America, oh my god, the most annoying character to ever exist ever. Like, am I wrong? If you've read the selection, am I wrong? So who I would actually pick for this is Rick Riordan. I feel like Rick wrote some awesome heroes. With Percy Jackson, he's just so fun to read about, and his journey, it's such a hero's journey, and it's so epic. Like, he goes through so much, but at the same time, he retains a little bit of his innocence, and he's able to kind of retain his goodness, and he, you know, he's just a good person. And so I love Percy Jackson, and I love that series, and I think that he's an awesome hero. I think that all of the heroes in those books are awesome heroes because they're all so unique and they're all so different, but they all are so good in their own ways. So the next story aspect is the action. And for this, I would pick Suzanne Collins. I might might not like Mockingjay very much, or at all for that matter, but I do think she could write some really compelling action sequences. Like when when Katniss comes out and, sees the cornucopia for the first time, and you've got those seconds leading up to that first action sequence, I think that was really strong in her book, because you are on the edge of your seat when you're reading that. It's so gripping, and you just want to know what's going to happen. You want to know that she's going to be okay, and you don't really know what's going to happen, because you know that she's going to make it out, but you don't know how she's going to make it out, and you don't know what she's going to make it out with, and if she's going to make it out with anything, if she's going to be able to get a bow. I mean, you don't know. And so I really love her action sequences, and I loved how exciting they were, how fast-paced they were, even if I might not have liked her books as a whole. So the next story aspect is the battles. And for this, I would pick Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, who wrote the Illuminae series. The battles in these series, I loved them. Like in Illuminae, the ending battle, oh gosh, that whole thing, I was creeped out so hard. Like, y'all need to check out the audiobook if you haven't, because it really adds to the ambiance of the moment, because you're just creeped out. And the second one, also very creepy. This one, very epic in scale. So the battle sequences at the end of all of those sci-fi books, I thought were just really well done, and they were just so big and grand, and I love those grand scale types of battle sequences, but at the same time where I feel connected to the characters, and I feel like, there's that stress of like what's gonna happen. It's not like there's too much happening at any one moment. There's just enough happening to where I need to know what's gonna happen next. So the next story aspect is the plot. And for this, I'm going to go with Leigh Bardugo, who wrote Six of Crows, as well as the Shadow and Bone trilogy, as well as King of Scars, as well as Ninth House. So I've only read Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows. The series is in their entirety, so I've read 5 of her books. But I love her plots. I think, especially in Six of Crows, that her plot is just so compelling, and it really kept me wanting to know what was going to happen next, especially because, we grew so attached to her characters in this book, and so she knew how to unveil her plot in relation with everything else in such a great way that I just think it was so strong. Like, I think that that's really a skill, is being able to develop your plot, but also develop your characters in ways that feel natural, but also in ways that make the readers feel engaged and feel like they want to discover what's happening with these characters. And so it just was such a fun read, and I loved the plot. And I do have a book talk up for Six of Crows, so if you want to check that out, it'll be linked somewhere. So the next story aspect is the world building. And so for this, I would go with Sarah J. Maas. I've been reading her Throne of Glass series, and so far I'm through Tower of Dawn. I'm not sure how many book talks will be up as of me posting this, but I really love her world building. I love how attached to the setting I am, and I love how every place in her world is very different, and how you have these kind of different cultures, these different kingdoms, these different peoples, and how we get to see it all. We don't just see one continent, we see multiple. We don't just see one kingdom, we see multiple, and we see how they all kind of play in together. And I also love how her world building kind of starts off a lot smaller and goes epic in scale. You start off in the first book and you're just in the one city, Rifthold, but in the next few books you start to develop it further, and you move out from there. You move out to another continent and you get to see the whole thing. You move out to another continent and then you get to see the whole thing. So I think that that's just a really great aspect of her world building, is how she's able to do it in manageable chunks so that you as the reader don't feel overwhelmed by this new world. So the next story aspect is the romance. And for this, I would pick the Lunar Chronicles, specifically Marissa Meyer, and specifically how she did Cress's relationship, because this relationship, I still go back and just reread their relationship, because oh boy, Captain Thorne, I was so here for it. Every moment, and how they really built each other up and helped each other out, and how Captain Thorne really relied on her, but she also relied on him, and I just loved that. I loved how, they learned to really care about each other, and I just thought that it was so strong. And Thorne is just the perfect guy, honestly. Like, there's no one better.
Fight me.
He is like the ultimate Captain Jack Sparrow, but better. So the last story aspect is the prose, and for this I would use Laini Taylor's prose. I absolutely loved how she wrote Daughter of Smoke and Bone. It was both artistic but still gripping at the same time. It wasn't too flowery. It was just flowery enough to to make me appreciate her use of language, but still feel like I was engaged in the story. And I just absolutely love her writing style. I love so many things about these books. I think that they are really great books, and I highly recommend checking them out if you haven't, because this is probably one of the first fantasies I ever read where it really did that world building really well of starting out smaller and growing bigger. So I think that Sarah J. Maas does her world building better, but I do think that these books are still really strong, awesome books. The way that the words are used, it just flows so well, and I absolutely love these books. So that's kind of the perfect book for me. I know that this is a very subjective thing, but a little bit of a get to know me as far as what I like in books, but also here are some book recommendations. So if you want to do this video, go ahead and do it. Comment down below saying that you did it, and I'll check it out. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, comment, all of those things. I will see you in my next video. Bye!